So let's go ahead and get started on our training today. We're going to be talking about pipelines and working with your sphere of influence. Now, there's a funny story about how when I started in this business, I started with a company that started us at a 60-40 split. So the company took 40%, we got 60. And for that 40% that we were paying, we received pretty much nothing, it's safe to say. And about 6-7 months in to my real estate business, I was really struggling. You can imagine getting started with no training whatsoever and how difficult that might be. The top performer in our office was somebody that did not like to share his tricks, and so it was a bunch of us really not very good performers kind of talking about real estate with each other, trying to figure things out. And finally one day I went to my broker and I said, I need help. And so he took me out to lunch, which was nice of him, and he wrote on a napkin there at lunch my sphere of influence, and he spelled it spear, so don't think I'm mispronouncing that. But that's what he wrote down on my napkin, my sphere of influence, and that I needed to contact all my friends and family and tell them I was in business and basically leverage that relationship for me to get real estate business. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that made me uncomfortable when I heard that. And I thought, if this is all the training he can give me, I've got to go somewhere else. I can't just go and leverage my relationships. And I know that that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So I did, over time, go to other trainings, and then over the years, with experience, I've developed this training for you guys. So hopefully this can provide some value to you. First of all, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, the homework that we had at the time was getting your buyer presentation put together so that you can go out and work with buyers, okay? So hopefully you're able to do that. Our deep thought for the day that we're going to be taking with us through this training is: one person sees a rock pile, another sees a great cathedral. The difference? Vision. Now folks, I will warn you in advance that it is a lot easier to do a for sale by owner training, because that's like, here's a nail, go hit it with your hammer. You know, it doesn't take rocket science to sign up for sale by owner leads or to get them off the equity archive and make phone calls. In fact, I know some people, some of the bigger teams have actually sat down. I've heard firsthand from people that when they joined this big team, there wasn't really a spot for them. They already had somebody doing notice of default calls and for sale by owner calls, and they were plopped down in front of them a big white pages book and said, here you go, make calls for 4 hours a day. All right? How do you train on something like that? That's just sit down and do it, right? This takes vision. What we're going to be talking about today, working with your sphere of influence. This isn't, here's a nail, go hammer it. Okay, this is, here's some wood, let's make a hammer first, then we can forge a nail, and in the end, though, we'll have a really quality product. So let's talk about what our pipeline is. Now, everybody's heard this concept of a pipeline. Most of us haven't gone out and worked on pipelines, and so I put it into a frame of reference that hopefully everybody can relate to with a bicycle. We've all ridden bikes, we've grown up around them, got them for our kids, taught other people how to ride, and so this should be a concept that we can all relate to. Now, the most important component of a bicycle is the frames. Okay, yeah, if we have flat tires, we can pump those up. But if we have a weak frame, we're in serious trouble. I did have an experience in a third world country once. I was riding a bicycle, and it was a third world bicycle as well, where I was going down a hill. Nobody obeyed the traffic laws there, so they had gigantic speed bumps. And I was going down a hill. My brakes had fallen off earlier in the day. They were in my backpack. There was a lot of traffic on this road. And so I was hitting these big speed bumps, and my handlebars sheared off in my hands. Now, luckily, as a younger man, I had learned to ride without any hands, but I was guiding it through traffic, over big speed bumps, and at the bottom they had a big roundabout because nobody obeyed stop signs either. And I had to navigate a roundabout going pretty fast because we'd been coming down a hill, and I had no handlebars and no brakes. And that was exciting enough for me that I gave the bike away to a little kid later that day and swore I wouldn't ride another one there. Your frame is important. There's bicycles out there, and I don't know if any of you guys are friends with Todd Schuster up in Colorado, who's big into cycling, but these bikes, You don't have to be a pro to be spending $5,000 on a personal bicycle for yourself. And most of that expense is in the frame. Now, why do I keep going on about how important this frame is? Is because if you get your frame right, then everything else just seems to happen much more easy, okay? If you're riding a 30-pound bike, one of those really old Schwinn's or something, it's tough to go out and ride and keep up with your peers. Whereas today they've got bikes that are so light you hardly know you're carrying something. So how does this apply to real estate? Your frame is your business habits. It's all the stuff that we've been talking about. If you have habits that say, you know what, I start every day at 9 o'clock and I work till 6 o'clock, and through every hour of the day I know what I'm going to be doing. I plan every day out in advance. I have time where I respond to emails so I don't feel like I'm a slave to my email. I have time where I take clients out so I don't feel like my clients are jerking me around all over the place. My family respects my work time and work ethic because they see me working and they see me working regular hours. And in addition to that, and almost more importantly for family, they see me spending time with them. And so they can respect my work time because I do respect my home time. So all of those business habits, all the stuff that we've been talking about, having an organized listing presentation, an organized buyer's presentation, having them all organized, your clients in 3-ring binders, simple little things make a huge difference in your business. And when you compare the business of somebody that has their stuff organized, it's like comparing a $5,000 bicycle to a $60 Schwinn from Walmart or something. Okay, there is no comparison. And it's not like you can't get around with that Schwinn. You can. It's just much, much more difficult for you than for the person that's got their stuff organized. So we have spent probably the last 6 weeks, discounting the holidays, talking about getting your business habits down pat. If you don't feel like they're there yet, then keep attending these trainings each week. Take the personal challenge that I give you at the end of each training and build yourself and your business habits to the point where they sustain you, okay, where you're comfortable with the way you treat this as a business. Once you've done that, then you can focus on the rest of your pipeline, but you need to focus on getting your business right, all right? So if my business is good, if I have a great listing presentation, a great buyer presentation, I know I can deliver them in 40 minutes and 20 minutes respectively. I have a good for sale by owner presentation and a plan to deliver that. I've got a great contact management software set up so that when I talk to people, I don't lose information. I get it all gathered together at the end of the day because I also have a habit of doing that, of taking all of my sticky notes and random things I've scribbled down throughout the day and putting it all into my software so that I don't miss important deadlines or phone numbers or callbacks or whatever. If I've got all of that in place, then I can put my focus where it needs to be, and that's on new business. Okay? When you're riding a bicycle, unless you're a little tiny kid for the first time and you want to look down and see how quick your little feet are spinning away, everybody else focuses on where they're going. That's what's important here in this business, is where is it that we're going? Now, too many of us focus on a little bit of the past, and we'll talk about that here. The rear wheel is your closings. And the danger that we get on what I call the real estate roller coaster is we get a client, and we do the math in our head like, holy cow, this is a $300,000 listing, that's a $9,000 commission, or it could be an $18,000 if I double side it, and wow, wouldn't that be fantastic? And so we take our eye off of the prize, the front wheel, which is new business, and we start focusing on that one client. And that deal may close, it may not. It may fall through. That does happen in our business. And because we've taken our eyes off of prospecting, acquiring new business, when that falls through or even when it closes, we're all of a sudden in a big slump. Now we're scared. We don't have anything to do. This big transaction that we had, the $9,000, that money's already spent. That was spent 2 months before we got the check. And now we're stressed because we've got a paycheck or bills that we have to pay looming in front of us, but we don't have any clients because we took our eyes off of where they should be, and that's new business. Okay, so don't get enthralled with the prospect of a big check, like a little kid looking down and seeing how fast his little feet are spinning away. Keep your eyes on what's important. That's the new business. And again, if your frame is strong and in place, that's easy to do. I got a new client. I don't need to be so tickled that I take my eyes off the prize, because for that new client, I have systems in place that ensure that he's going to get taken care of. I don't need to worry about how he's going to be taken care of. My systems will worry about that. I have things in place for every listing that I'm going to run ads on this day, this day, this day, this day, which ads I'm going to run. I run those ads, and then I've got a whole day freed up to focus on getting new business. All right? This is how important and how you need to treat your pipeline. All right? Get your frame in place. It's vital for you. Focus on new business. The rear wheel, the closings, yeah, little problems come up here and there. That's okay. Everything that we do can, and by the way, I've got a hand raised here. I'm not sure why, so if you can hear me and your hand is raised, you can type in the question panel and type in a question for me, and I'll try to address that, okay? So back to the training here. So as far as the rear wheel goes, the closings, they happen automatically as long as your frame, as long as you have good business habits in place, systems in place to guarantee that you take good care of all of your clients, then this happens automatically. You don't have to dwell on those. Yes, occasionally, like you're riding a wheelie or something, there'll be a really big problem loom up that you have to kind of unhinge from your daily schedule and focus on that and work through it. Yeah, that does happen sometimes, all right? But most of the time, and even though there are a lot of problems, most of the time our frame will handle those problems. And we still need to make sure that we have set aside time every day for our front wheel to get that attention. We need to be focusing on prospecting. So that's the way the pipeline works. You got to have a strong frame. Holds it all together. Now, what I'm going to recommend, even though I've got a picture here of a mountain biker, and if you've been mountain biking, it is exciting. There's adventure around every corner. But I've had times mountain biking where the adventure led me to a popped tire, shattered spokes, chains coming derailed, whatever, because sometimes that adventure is a little bit bigger drop or something, a log in the trail that you hadn't expected. Now, we don't want that to happen to our business, so I want you to take your bike out of the mountains. We don't need to have the adventure. Put it on a track, someplace familiar that you can just go around and around fairly effortlessly, and make sure that you get a paycheck every single month because you're going around familiar territory. I'm going to describe with this training today some of the familiar territory that you need to be doing consistently. Now remember, I'm going to say this to some people right here on this training, and they're going to look at what I describe and say, it would be so much easier to just pound a nail with a hammer and get on the phone and call those for sale by owner calls. And I'm not going to argue with that. It is easier. But in the end, having a pipeline is always easier than hauling a bucket. For that, I always like to tell a story at this point. So if you've heard the story, bear with me. But there was in a little village, and I believe this story comes from Rich Dad Poor Dad or one of those books. I can't remember which. I read it a long time ago. But there's a little village, and I'm imagining in Africa or someplace because it's a half mile away from the nearest water source. And everybody in the village gets up and walks a half mile with buckets, and they haul buckets of water every day. Now, a couple teenage boys, young, strong, healthy kids, decide they're going to start a business venture together, and so they let all their neighbors know, and soon word goes out to the whole town, these boys will haul buckets for you. Pay them a little bit of money, they'll haul your water every day. And pretty soon, they've got a great bucket hauling business, all right? One of them, however, is not really satisfied. We'll call him Friend B. He thinks there's got to be a better way than hauling buckets every day. I can't imagine everybody in the world does this. So he says to Friend A, I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to see if there's a better way. And he goes out and he visits with different people in different communities and talks with some educated people, and he gets trained and hears about this pipeline concept. And he comes back thrilled and excited and tells Friend A, hey, there is a better way to do this. We can build a pipeline. Now, granted, it's going to take a little bit of upfront work, some effort, during which time we're not going to get paid. Okay, so we're going to have to continue to haul buckets a little bit, but in our off hours, we need to be building this pipeline. We need to be focusing on this. Okay, I've got somebody that typed this in here. It's a parable of the pipeline, originally from network marketing. I know I didn't read it in a network marketing book originally, but these stories get passed around. So you guys are, some of you anyways, are familiar with this story. So how this works is friend A says, I think you're crazy. When I'm done working, I'm going to go take a break. I'm going to rest. I'm going to relax. I'm going to enjoy life. Okay, I've got a good job. I'm not going to mess it up. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Friend B isn't satisfied with that, so he goes out on his own. He makes the initial investment of time and energy, maybe even takes a little bit of a loan, and he builds a pipeline. And in the end, friend B and friend A turn out to be competitors with each other. Friend A has this thriving bucket hauling business, but it doesn't stay thriving forever. It tends to dwindle because friend B can now stand at the end of a pipe, dip a bucket in water, and hand it out to people. So he can do it for less expense, and he also has a greater profit margin on it than friend A does. And unfortunately, the way that the story ends up, at least the way I read it, is friend A works himself into a frenzy. He actually ends up working so hard to try to compete against a pipeline that he hospitalizes himself. And friend B goes to visit him in the hospital and says, you know, you could partner with me any time on this. And friend A is so blind to this pipeline concept that rather than wanting to partner with him, even though he can see it's a much more successful idea, all he is embittered towards his friend. All right, so that's the way this works out. Now, are there real estate agents like this? Absolutely. There's real estate agents that are fantastic bucket haulers. They get on the phones, they pound them every single morning for 3 or 4 hours, and do they make a living? Absolutely. If you've got the determination and commitment to pound the phones every day for 3 or 4 hours, you're going to make a good living. Most of us, including myself, don't have that. Now, yes, I have had telemarketing jobs in the past. I've done door-to-door sales. I can do it. I just don't like it. It's not very fun. And as far as a career goes, to look at doing that for 40 years, pounding the phones for 4 hours a day, that sounds just plain out miserable to me. So I chose long ago to build a pipeline. Now, this pipeline works so well. I'm going to tell you guys my own personal story, okay? Now, I am not a top producer. I've never been one of those guys that closes 60 to 100 deals a year. I really enjoy time with my family. And so once I've put in my 40 hours a week, my priorities start to lean back towards my family. But I've made a good, I don't know, 6-digit income for probably everything besides my last year or two, or my first year or two in the business, when I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't have any training. So you can make a good income with this. Now, as far as the pipeline works in my personal life, all right, I was the first branch broker that Equity had. And so we had a rule at the time, when a broker hit 100 agents, he became a non-competing broker. We were going to dedicate all of our time to the agents. Now, that worked great until the economy kind of dropped off, and 100 agents weren't necessarily closing enough deals to where you could pay your bills as a broker. And so anyways, I was kind of the only one doing this non-competing thing. I'd been doing it for 4 years. I had had a team in place. I was closing a lot of deals. I let all of that go. I gave my sphere of influence away, all my databases and everything. I gave that, distributed it to my team. I hadn't done any marketing to clients for 4 years. And then when the economy dropped a couple years ago, I just let everybody know I've got to throw my hat back in the ring. It was a good thing for me, too, because it helped me with training to understand in a difficult economy what you guys are going through. So I threw my hat back in the ring, and I think that first year I closed 18 deals, or 16, something like that. And last year I closed 20 deals. And that's on top of being a broker of over 100 agents and doing the training and still keeping my family as a priority. And so you can make a good living with this pipeline concept. It doesn't take forever to build, and yet it's still going to take enough vision that many of you people listening today will probably not do it. So let's get into our training. And we're going to be talking about this today, our real estate practice. That's the pipeline we're going to be focusing on today. But I don't want you to neglect recruiting other real estate agents. Equity has this unique program where you can make $100 every time an agent that you refer closes the deal. Now, I don't know if you saw some of the Facebook postings that have gone out from corporate in the last couple of months, but Equity's paid out over $1 million in profit sharing since we started less than 10 years ago. Over $1 million. I've got two of the agents that we're focused on there were mine, and one had made over $20,000 and one close to that just in profit share over the years. I think if you neglect this concept right here of recruiting other realtors, then it's to your detriment, because that's a pipeline that most people will ignore. Okay? Most of the people listening right now will ignore this. But for those of you that don't, we talk to a lot of real estate agents as a general matter of going about our business. You know, when I'm a listing agent, I have a lot of people calling me. When we go under contract, I almost feel like we become friends with the other agent. It's very easy for me to say, oh, and by the way, my broker is recruiting right now. You are a fabulous agent. We'd love to have you on board. All right? It's not such a hard thing to do. And a lot of people will say no. But for those that say yes, there you go. That could be, even on a very part-time agent, that could be an extra $400 or $500 a month to you, to where some of our agents are making over $1,000 a month. It's almost a house payment because they built this pipeline. So that's all I'm going to say about that pipeline, but don't take that to mean it's unimportant, just that I want to focus the rest of our time on the real estate practice. So that leads us into our sphere of influence training. Now, by definition, your sphere of influence consists of everybody that you know and interact with as a part of your normal life. And I know a lot of people want to exclude maybe their church acquaintances because they don't want to mix church and business. And I agree with that. I do not agree that they should be excluded. I just agree that you shouldn't go to church and hand out flyers. But it should include your family, your friends, and that includes personal friends, your neighbors, school acquaintances, church acquaintances, etc. Now, the hesitancy that I run into with agents in including all of these groups is they think, like my old broker did that gave me that training, that I'm going to be leveraging my relationship with them, basically putting pressure on my relationship in order to benefit myself financially. And I do not subscribe to that philosophy. That is not how you build a business. Now, if somebody in there had typed in network marketing or whatever with my pipeline thing, network marketing is a classic example of how most people do this wrong. Okay, now I have nothing against network marketing. I've actually made a lot of money with network marketing too in the past. But the way people go about it, they're just not trained correctly, in my opinion. It's always leveraging a relationship. And to me, what you need to be doing with that relationship is caring for it, developing it, nurturing it, building it up. And if what you have as a product cannot do that, then either fix your product or get a new business. That's maybe harsh, but that's my opinion on the subject. Okay? What you have should better people's lives. Now, in real estate, is what you have something that you'll feel confident talking to people about with all of these things? Now, a lot of the trainings that we've gone through over the past few weeks will help you with that confidence. Things like knowing that you've got a good buyer presentation, a good listing presentation, things that you know that you've got a lot of different things to offer with your listing marketing because you took that training. You know that you've got some good things to offer there. If you took our Power Team training, which we're going to be repeating here in a week or two, that gives you a lot more to offer. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be challenging ourselves to always have great things to offer to our friends and our family and our clients. That's what we want to have. We want to improve their life, and that makes it easier for us to talk to them because it's not about leveraging a relationship, it's about providing value. Now, when you can do that, you can talk to anybody, all right? Now, why is this so important? The study that I base this off of, and if anything, it gets more important as technology makes it easier for us to come apart, but this is a business where people like to have somebody there close and personal. Over 72% of people said they would choose their realtor based on who they know or by a referral from somebody they know and trust. In other words, 3/4 of everybody that you talk to would like to hire their agent based on somebody they already know or a referral from somebody that they know and trust. They do not want to hire that guy smiling and dialing every morning. Now, is that guy getting hired? You bet he is, because the agent that they know and trust won't call him. The agent that they know and trust hasn't sent him an email in so long they can't find their information anymore. The agent that they know and trust, they have no idea if he's even still in business because it's been so long. And so the guy smiling and dialing gets the job, but that's not the way they would like to have it. So remember this. Now, I add this little note in here. You make this, even though 72% of people want their business to come from this source, you want to make your sphere of influence a part of your business, but not all of your business. You need to have a little bit of cold calling going on in there. Now, I say cold calling a little tongue-in-cheek. It could be knocking on doors, introducing yourself to people in a farm area. It could be for sale by owners. It could be notice of defaults, however you do it. But the bottom line is, if the only people that you talk to are the 20 people that you currently know, your business isn't going to grow. You need to expand your sphere of influence. Now, that helps you in a couple of ways. You will face some rejection from your neighbors. They're not always going to hire you. You may see signs go up for another brokerage 3 houses away from you. That should not sink your boat. Okay, it's a little bit irritating, yeah, I'll admit. But you should be able to go on and be just fine. The other thing that working outside your sphere of influence does for you is it builds your confidence. Now, this comes through every time you talk to somebody. And if the only people you've ever had as clients was mom and dad, you're going to come across a little bit hesitant, a little bit weak in your presentation to everybody else. So get used to working outside of your sphere of influence, because it does build your confidence and it helps your sphere of influence to grow. All right? Now, there are some specific steps that need to take place, and they need to take place in the right order for you to build and develop and nurture this relationship. First of all, the people that already know you, that are your friends, your family, your neighbors, they need to know that you're a real estate agent. How many times have you heard this from a friend or family member? Oh, you're a realtor? I had no idea. You know, you're at a big family get-together, a family reunion, you're walking your dog around the neighborhood, and you start talking with a neighbor, and you hear this line. I've had so many agents tell me that they've heard that phrase. You're a realtor? I had no idea. What a shame. If they had an idea, they would have called you, that neighbor from 3 houses down. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to let everybody know that we're a real estate agent. Now, if you're new in real estate, that's easy. You just send out a letter letting everybody know about your new job. If you're not new in real estate and you think, well, that's embarrassing, I've been doing this for 20 years, and now I'm going to go tell people, yeah, I mean, they should already know. Well, yeah, they should, but most of them don't. And in fact, the challenge that I make to people is to go talk to just their own neighborhood. And you'll be shocked, I think, most people are. In fact, I don't know anybody that isn't shocked when they do this exercise at how many people right in their own neighborhood have no idea that they've got a real estate agent amongst them. Okay? So, if you're experienced, you've been around doing this for a while, then let people know about some increased services. The market changes and the need for constant contact due to some of the crazy things going on politically or whatever it is. Let them know that they're not just getting the local news like they can turn to Channel 5. They're getting their neighborhood news directly from you. Now, this letter needs to be simple. Keep it in their interest and don't ask for business here. Remember, we are building relationships. We are not out mooching off our friends and neighbors for business. Our first step is to build a relationship. Now, I've got here a sample letter that one of my realtors put together. Let me bring this up. Okay, so one of my agents up in Logan, put this together. Now, he had gotten back in real estate after a hiatus, and he put this little newsletter together, and I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. David Bates, very creative here, seems familiar, but how do I know David Bates? Now, again, great way to introduce yourself to people in your neighborhood, where maybe you get 10, 15 houses away and everybody doesn't know your name. If you live in Hiram, I'm your neighbor. If you live in Logan, I teach English at Logan High. If you recently financed for several years, I did loans with Envision Lending. Anyways, he gets down here. Finally, if we don't yet know each other, lucky for both of us, the pleasure of meeting still lies ahead. I like it. Very creative. And then he's got down here, considering buying, let me connect you to a free email alert. Considering selling, I'll put together a free comparative market analysis and show my free premium listing and marketing program. So, and then he's got some contact information here. So he's done this with this. Okay. Is it simple? Yeah. Has he kept it in their interest? And some of you might look at that and say, well, that's clearly a marketing piece, and it is. But he's made it about the people. He's made it fun and easy to read. And the only bits about asking for business there was saying, hey, if you're thinking of doing this stuff, I've got some free services I'm happy to give you. We all have those services. We're all willing to give a free market analysis. Or if it's a buyer man, with me, I just hook them up on my website. It gives them everything that he talked about there. So we all have these tools, so keep it real simple, keep it in their interest, keep it one page, all right? Make it a little bit colorful. So now that everybody that knows you knows that you're a realtor, you can move on to step 2 and help them start to benefit from that fact. Now, there's a lot of ways that we do this. This is my recipe right here, and this is one of the reasons when I threw my hat back in the ring 2 years ago, first thing I did is I started putting together a newsletter again. I started making phone calls. My goal was to make 20 calls a day. Now, for those of you guys that are used to the smile and dial philosophy, 20 calls is nothing. I mean, when I did the smile and dial stuff for a job, it was 150 calls a day. So 20 calls, not hard, right? However, I've made this challenge to realtors. You make 20 calls a day, and I bet you can't do it for more than 2 months because you'll have too much business. All right? So that's how I started. I just went back, I took my very own training, I put it into practice for myself, and my very first year, I closed like 18 transactions after a 4-year break where I was basically starting from scratch with my sphere of influence, I didn't have any past clients sending me business, and that's how it worked. All right? So here's the recipe. 20 contacts a year. Every year. That consists of 12 newsletters. Now, I've got a copy of a newsletter I recently sent out. Okay, so I experimented. I've used a couple different programs out there, and there's some I can tell you right now that are free. MailChimp, M-A-I-L-C-H-I-M-P. If you go to MailChimp.com, that's free. And I think you can have up to 100 or, I don't know, a couple hundred contacts or something that you're sending it your newsletter to before they start to charge you anything. You can use MailChimp. One of the challenges with free programs is that, well, they're challenging. They're a little bit less user-friendly and don't quite have all the bells and whistles. But if you want to just dip your toe in the water and don't want it to cost you anything, MailChimp's a great resource for you. I've also used Constant Contact in the past, and that's a little bit more expensive, but it works great. This one I experimented with Sharper Agent. And so as I look at my own newsletter, this is the first one I sent out, and I just sent it out a couple days ago. But this one, now I'm experimenting with Sharper Agent because Equity has brokered a deal for all of our agents that we get it for almost 50% off. And so that's a great deal. I didn't want to pass that up. If you want details on that, you can go on the Equity Archive under Vendors. I think it's Resources and then Vendors, and you can get some information on Sharper Agent about how to sign up for it. But this is the newsletter that Sharper Agent put together. Now, my rule with newsletters is, again, I'm trying to build a relationship. So yes, I want my personal photo in there. I want people to know who it's from, and I don't necessarily care if it's me in a suit and tie, something that nurtures that relationship, okay? So for somebody that was a huge fisherman, they'd probably want a picture of that because everybody that knows them knows that they love fishing. I've got agents that are dog trainers, and so them with their dog would probably be appropriate because everybody that knows them in any way knows that they love dogs, okay? With me, this is me and my little boy. So if you know me, you know I love my little kids. So anyways, very first article that you need to be put in here needs to be a personal article. All right, now this one says, Dear Eric, because I sent it to myself because I wanted to see how it looked. So everybody's name shows up there. And it's got a personal article that they can click on. And guys, you don't have to, if you're like Facebook averse because you really like your privacy, you don't have to share intimate details here. Some of the best articles that I've read from agents that have taken this training and have added me to their newsletter to kind of get my feedback, one had a raccoon break into their house. That was funny to read about. That was engaging to me. One guy told me a fish story because he was a big fisherman, and he had a real interesting story about some fish or something. Anyways, these are the odd things that I remember. I remember stories about people's kids that they share with me, and it makes me feel closer to them as a person. Now, some of you out there are thinking, well, I've got a program I don't have to do anything for. It's called a drip system. I signed up for it, and they automatically send this stuff out. Folks, a drip system, in my opinion, is, and I hate to be so blunt, but I think it's a huge waste of money. I think it's actually detrimental to most of your relationships because I'm on drip systems for lenders that I really like personally. And I get their newsletter, and I just think, oh, man, take me off of this thing. It doesn't tell me anything that builds my relationship with you. I already know you. I already like you. I don't think those drip systems do anything to build a relationship. So when you do your newsletter, don't do some generic thing. Okay, Equity provides you with a newsletter. If you want to do that, copy and paste it, fine. But it's editable for a reason. You need to go in there and put in a personal article. So always start it out with a personal article. Otherwise, you will get spammed, you will get blocked, and people will not want to get your newsletter from you ever again. Now, one of the things that I like about this one that I was experimenting with is I can feature some of my listings down the side. And I like that ability because I want my newsletter to go out to all of my current clients, and that's fun for them to see their house featured there. I've also got some nice important articles here. So when I go back to our training, my newsletter is doing a couple of things. Now, do you remember that statistic I said at the start of this, that 72% of people hire somebody based on who they know or a referral from somebody they trust? Now, I took those two words, know and trust, and I assigned two different meanings to them. I want people to know me personally, and I want them to trust me professionally. So my newsletter it's going to accomplish both of those goals. Okay? My friends and family that already know me personally, they might not trust me professionally because they don't receive any professional art. You know, they remember me as a little kid running around, okay, or the goofy neighbor or whatever. Do they know who I am professionally? And in most cases, with most agents, the answer is a resounding no. We just take it for granted that they would know that we're good people. That's not enough. How many of you, just curious if you guys could participate with me and raise your hands here, how many of you have worked with a close friend or family member where you gave them professional advice and they did not take it? There's a little button on your dashboard panel you can raise your hand with. Okay, it's happened to a lot of us. You know, the hands are going up. We've experienced that. If you haven't experienced it, it's just a matter of time. But they don't take your advice because they don't respect you professionally yet, because they see you as a friend. And yet your clients who don't see you as a friend are much more likely to take your advice. So even your close friends and family need to know that you're a professional. So they get this newsletter, your neighbors get your newsletter, and in there are professional articles. Your first one isn't. Your first one's a personal one. Okay? But after that, there are some professional articles. So that builds both fronts for me. Next, I'm going to do 4 phone calls. That's once every quarter, 4 phone calls a year. I can't sit down with a database my size 500 plus people. That's the goal I want you to shoot for, is 500, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But with a database of 500 people, I can't sit down one day every quarter and pound that out in a week. I know I won't do it. It sounds like hell to me. So what am I going to do? Well, I can divide it up into little daily chunks, and if I've got roughly 90 days in a quarter and I make 6, 7, 8 calls a day, that's a piece of cake. I can make 8 calls a day. And so every member of my sphere of influence is going to hear from me every 90 days. Now, this is going to be business and personal as well. And I can mix it up real easy. A lot of people like to hear scripts. Well, a great script right now is, hey, I just want to call and see how your holidays were. Fantastic. I'm glad you had a good time. We had a great time as well. Got the kids, went sledding, blah, blah, blah. Now, do I need to bring in real estate into it? No, not always. Now, a lot of times, it's easy for me to bring in real estate, not as a sales pitch, because I'm not trying to sell these guys. They already want to hire me. 72% of them want to hire somebody that they already know. So I don't need to give them a sales pitch, but I might need to give them a gentle reminder. And so I can say, yeah, I'm really excited for this new year too. I've got some great goals in real estate, and I think the economy is really going to start to boost for it. So I don't need to do a sales pitch. I don't need to add on, by the way, let me know if you want to do anything. They already want to use me. Okay, I don't need to undermine my relationship making with a clear sales pitch. All right, but I may need to throw in a little bit, be a little bit creative, and somehow bring real estate into the conversation. So I'm going to make 4 phone calls. That's 1 every quarter. Holidays are a great excuse to make a phone call. There's pretty much 1 every quarter, so you can bring holidays into it if you want, if you don't need a pitch. I can say, hey, by the way, I just sent out my newsletter. Just calling to see if you had gotten it. No? You got it, but you didn't open it? Well, when you get a chance, check it out. I'm really trying to improve my game with real estate. I want to be the best real estate agent you know. I think this is a valuable service for people. So check it out. Give me some feedback when you get a chance. All right? That's an excuse to make a phone call. And I can make that call to everybody on my sphere of influence because they should all be getting it. All right? So it's really easy to come up with an excuse to make a phone call. Another thing that you can do as an excuse to make a phone call is in your contact management software when you're talking to people, and I'll give you a good reference for software to use, but when I'm talking to somebody and I find out, oh, for Christmas they were going to go on a vacation to Hawaii. So I call them in January and I say, hey, or I put a note in my software, call back in 40 days or 35 days or 8 days, whatever it is, and ask them how their vacation went. Now, what I'm doing here, guys, I'm not giving you clever scripts for real estate. I'm trying to give you some ideas to help you build better relationships with people that you're friends with or with your clients and turn them into friends, not just past clients, but current friends. All right? 75% of them want to hire you again. You just got to build that relationship up. So if you have good contact management software that reminds you of how to build that relationship, like, for example, today's their birthday, give them a call. You don't need an excuse for that. All right? Now, this can build up personal and professional, again, knowing and trusting. Now, I also put in 2 semi-annual market reports, one in the winter, one in the summer, because our market tends to swing heavily for those 2 time periods, and that is pure business. I want to send that to everybody to build up their trust in me professionally. Now, where do I get these reports from? Well, we get a lot of reports sent to us. Okay, if you haven't checked your junk email box from lenders, from different boards of realtors, there's a report in there you can probably use. You can also run reports off of your MLS. Now, everybody's MLS is different, but most of them have some way of running reports. If you do a farm area, we're going to be training on that in a couple weeks, you can do reports with some MLSs specific to that farm area, and that becomes very valuable current information for people. Now, 2 nice cards, birthday cards and Christmas cards and anniversary cards. Now, I say nice cards because this is strictly to build your relationship. In fact, when I sent out my Christmas card email, I had to, when I developed it and I proofread it, it said at the bottom, it automatically put in there, don't hesitate to call me for real estate needs or something. I had to go in and edit it and pull that out. I don't want to say, happy birthday, don't hesitate to call me for real estate needs. That just sounds so cheesy and stupid, and it really, I think it negatively affects your relationships. So don't do that kind of thing. Just be genuine and care about people, and you're probably already that way. Just allow yourself to feel that way and know that it's okay, that you don't have to bring up real estate or some sales script every time you talk to somebody. It's okay. We're building relationships here, and that's worthwhile. So 20 contacts a year. I've got in here a couple, you know, I already mentioned the newsletter I did with Sharper Agent. Send Out Cards, I think, is a fantastic program. I am not an expert at Send Out Cards, so don't ask me any real deep questions about how it works. I can plug it in because it's pretty simple, but this is an example of a card I sent out. It's for Valentine's Day. We've got 2 more kids than we do now, so this goes back a couple of years. But I use this as an example in training for one reason. I saw this card stay on somebody's fridge for over a year. All right, people that we went to visit. And I took our picture that was just a digital picture I put in there. Sent Out Cards had the border and allowed me to draw these little thought bubbles, and I just put stuff in there that at the time was appropriate for my kids. My son's saying, I just tooted. I'm saying, smile, darn it, because I did send it to my mother-in-law and my mom. I didn't want to put what I was really thinking. My wife's, I'm so happy, and my daughter saying, I love you, and that was our family. And that stayed on people's fridges for over a year. Whereas some of the generic cards, like for example, Christmas just came and went, and I got the generic cards from title companies where you know that they'd all sat around a table and signed 1 million postcards for agents, and they had no idea at the time they were signing it who it was going to. And they just mass-produced these really generic cards. Those do absolutely nothing for me. I open them up, look inside, quick glance, make sure that there's nothing at all personal for me, and I throw it away. It doesn't go on a mantle. I don't remember fondly. In fact, I could throw it away and 5 minutes later and not tell you who it came from. All right? Now, I don't know if you're like me, and some of you aren't. I know some people from surveys I've asked do keep those cards. I don't. There's nothing personal. There's nothing that grabs me. I'm not going to keep it. This card cost me 42 cents in shipping. They ship it for you. I do have the chance to get in here and write something personal on the interior. And 3 points, I don't remember how much a point costs, like 25 cents or something. So it cost me just over $1, which is still probably better than what I could go to Hallmark and buy a nice card for, more expensive than what I could mass produce, those ones that I just mentioned the title companies use. But this stayed on somebody's fridge for a year, which is much more valuable to me than one that gets tossed in the garbage can. So if you like this system, I can refer somebody to you that uses it and knows how it works really well. Again, I barely limped through it. Like I said, I've started experimenting with Sharper Agent, and they also can send out cards like this, personal cards as well. So they offer our agents, again, that substantial discount. So I think you need to get some kind of a system. Again, this goes back to your frame concept that makes this easier for you. Now, when you've done these first 2 things, when everybody knows that you're a real estate agent and they benefit from that fact, they benefit because you are taking seriously your relationship with them. You care enough about them to call them on their birthday. You send them some great, timely, local real estate information that helps them out. You're a good resource for them. You're a good resource. You're a good friend. They show that fact by showing their appreciation and referring people to you. Now, here's the magic numbers. This is a survey that I got from Randall Wall. Yeah, I don't know if you know him, but he is a fantastic real estate agent and broker in Salt Lake. And he said, the study that he was quoting was that 20 high-quality contacts per person. Now, his study said 12. My challenge for you is to do 20, but his study was for like 12 or 15 or contacts a year. But if you go with my program, 20 high-quality contacts per person could yield, according to some studies, up to a 10% referral rate. In other words, if you go with these magic numbers, if you get into the habit of adding 2 contacts per day to your database. Now, this is very simple, and I'll tell you the key that I've used for this is I leave my business cards at home or in my car. And when somebody says, oh, and that sounds interesting, can I get your number? You know what? I pat myself down like forgetful old guy and say, you know what, I don't have any cards on me. Let me get your name and number, and I'll give you a call or send you an email with all my information. All right? There's a 100% chance that if I get their name and number, they're going to hear from me again. They're going to get more information. They're going to become a better friend of mine. There is about a 1 in 1,000 chance if I give them a card that that same thing will happen. Okay? I'm not going to take the 1 in 1,000 chance over 100% chance. I'm going to go with my own odds, and I'm going to take control of my destiny and my business. All right? So I start adding 2 contacts a day to my database. There's 52 weeks a year. I'm not going to make you work Saturdays and Sundays, so that means 10 people added a week times 52 weeks is 520 people added each year. If you have a database over 500 people that you manage in this way, you will be a top performer. You'll earn over $100,000 in income each year with real estate. And it's much easier and much more retirable than smile and dialing for 4 or 5 hours a day. All right? This is the kind of business that you want to have when you get older because it's easier on you. And frankly, it's more enjoyable. All right? So if you've got 520 people in your database, you're getting 10% referral. It's not like they're all moving. 10% of them are moving. That's not it. But they know somebody that is. And that's what that study that we examined at first said, that 72% of people would like to hire a realtor based on who they know or a referral from somebody they know and trust. So some of them will be moving. Others will just have a referral for you. But you could land 52 deals a year. Now, guys, I know most agents aren't closing 52 deals a year. So my question at the bottom of this is, what's got you so busy that you can't have this kind of business? Because like I said, some people see a rock pile, other people see a cathedral. Some of you will go out and work on developing and nurturing your relationships like I'm training here today. Others will just go about their business like normal because they'll find this too hard. And it's easier to haul a bucket in their mind than it is to build the pipeline. My challenge is haul buckets and get your bills paid. Make your for sale by owner calls. We do trainings on how to do that kind of stuff for a reason, because we do have to get our bills paid while we're building this pipeline. But once this pipeline is built, folks, life can get pretty nice. So here's your homework assignment. Get a couple systems set in place. Get your frame really solid for your pipeline. The contact management software that I use and that I really enjoy, and I've used almost all of them over my years, but I like Realty Juggler. Why? It's cheap. It cost me $100 a year, not a month like other programs I've used. $100 a year. They will give you 3 months free trial. If you put down my email address there, they'll give you another 2 months free. So they're super cheap. They have everything in there that you need to have to build a relationship with somebody. You can store birthdays, anniversaries, whatever special days. You can record all your phone conversations that you have with people. And it's not just for contact management, obviously, but for real estate as well. So it's got some great ways to build in reminders and systems and your frame, like we talked about at the start of our training today. You can build a great frame in there that ensures that you treat all of your clients, including family and friends, which sometimes we skimp on. But this ensures that they all get treated equally and at the highest level of service. So get set up with your contact management software. Then start adding all of the people that you know into it. 10 names and numbers per day. I don't want this to be an excuse for you not to go out and prospect. So don't say, well, I've got to type in 400 people today, and all I'm going to do is data entry. No, don't do that. Sit down, type in 10 a day, and do that every day until your 400 people are in there. Yeah, it'll take you a month and a half if you've got 400 contacts that need to be typed in. If you've got people that just need to be ported in, if you've got them in a different software, Outlook or whatever, you can call Realty Juggler's tech support and they'll do it all for you. Okay, so if you've got it stored electronically, they can port them in for you. If you've got it stored on sticky notes and you need to type it in, don't use it as an excuse to not do your other prospecting. Next, get into the habit of adding 2 new contacts a day. Hide your business cards. All right? Get people's contact information and take back control of your business. And then my challenge for this week And you might think that that's enough for you already, but it's not. Once you get into it, it's going to be extremely easy. Signing up for this, piece of cake, that's not going to take you a long time. Don't delay in doing so. 10 names and numbers a day, or just doing a big port and getting them all in there. That's real simple. Have that done in a half hour. 2 contacts a day is just a habit you're going to start to put in place. So the real challenge for you is to develop a personal newsletter, send that out to your entire sphere of influence this week. And again, if you're new to this training, every week we do a homework assignment. Take it seriously, and every week your business will improve. Again, thank you for joining me. If you want to refer back to this or for notes or whatever reason, I will have this uploaded and posted. So go on and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Elite Agent Training, and you'll be notified when it's posted there. Thank you again. Everybody have a fantastic new year. I will see you online next week when we talk about some more prospecting methods.